Hey everybody, welcome back to Keeping It Real with Tiff and Carl. I'm Carl Raven.
I am Tiffany Salcedo.
And today we wanted to talk with you guys about one of the subjects that keeps coming up in conversations I have with leaders, and just with a lot of different people, and that's imposter syndrome. And hold on, let's restart. I need to answer this phone call. I'll be right back.
Go for it.
And we are starting in three, two. Hey everybody, welcome back to Keeping It Real with Tiff and Carl. I'm Carl Raven.
I am Tiff Salcedo.
And today we wanted to talk about something that keeps coming up in conversations that I have with leaders and folks in organizations. And I think I've just been talking with Tiff about it, and it's stuff that shows up. But often we don't know to put a word to it. But the phrase that has become popular, and we're talking about it, is imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
right? And so, imposter syndrome is that situation where you don't feel like you deserve to be somewhere, or that you haven't earned the right to express yourself in ways that other people have, or sometimes wondering, how did I do this when other people I feel like are more qualified, whatever it is. And so that's something that affects people so much on a daily basis, especially leaders who are put into positions where they may not necessarily have a whole bunch of experience, but they're put there for a reason. And sometimes it's easy to forget why they're put there. So, just what's your experience with imposter syndrome, Tiff?
The woman in the workforce, let me tell you, something that I think we experience all the time. It always reminds me of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is that the people who have the least amount of skill are the most confident, and the people with the most amount of skill are oftentimes the least confident. There's like an inverse relationship between the two. And I
Mhm.
think that's where that's the birthplace of imposter syndrome. Um, I think as human beings, the reason that this comes up is that we want to be competent. We want to know what we're doing. We want to know what we're talking about. And so when we, especially in like role changes, where I'm going from something maybe I'm the expert in to something I'm not so familiar with, it feels like you're not ready for that next step because you don't have all of the information, right? Or maybe you do have all of the information, you just don't have the relationships or the longevity or whatever the case may be. Where I experienced it, I still remember this when I got invited to help develop the supervisor series. This was years ago. I was new to the organization. I was new to training, and I remember sitting in this room with a lot of really smart people, and they were had supervised for years, decades. Some of them were leaders in military. You know who I'm talking about. People that have run programs in different universities, and people these really high level positions. And I'm sitting there like, dee, dee, dee. Like, what am I doing, right? Like, what do I have to offer to this group of super qualified people? Like, I am in the wrong place, right? I don't belong here, and they're going to find out really really soon that I am a moron. And I remember talking to the person who invited me, saying like, what is my role here? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Because I feel like I'm in over my head. Like, these people are outranking me in so many different ways. And this person sat with me and was like, look, you have a perspective and experience that they don't. And so then they talked to me a little bit about why I was chosen and what value I brought and what I had that these people with all of these titles and experiences didn't. And I was like, oh yeah, huh? Like, oh yeah, maybe I do. So it's funny because I had this conversation with I have a fake niece now. I'm collecting nieces and nephews. I'm trying to be everybody's favorite auntie. That's my new goal in life, is to be everybody's favorite auntie. And she was applying for a position, and I was telling her, like, she's like, I'm scared because I don't know exactly what they do. I said, every job comes with training. Every job will come with some, it doesn't even matter if you know how to do the job. When you start at a new place, there's going to be a time where you have to learn and somebody's going to be there to teach you. Like, don't worry. Like, if they allow you in the door, just walk through it and do it, which is great advice from someone who struggles sometimes with the same thing. But it's like, it's easier to tell others. But it's like nobody's expecting you to know everything. I think we just get in our own head, whether it be perfectionism, whether it be, having high standards, or being the only whatever in the room, or that transition, that's why it shows up. And so, the moment that you are stretching into something new or unfamiliar, your brain is going to look for certainty, and where you don't find that certainty, you're going to have doubt. And so, new levels and new opportunities are going to create new insecurities, and you just kind of have to lean into it. But that's much easier said than done. Much
Yeah,
easier said than done.
and that's the challenge. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the fear of being found out as less than,
Mm-hmm.
right? Being judged as less than, which is the challenge. At the end of the day, I'm really boiling down into this theory, Tiff, that 90% of personality issues are fear of judgment, right? 90% of performance issues, of issues with self-esteem and everything else is our worry about being judged by others, and or judging ourselves as less than, comparing
Right.
ourselves to others. And that's what happens with imposter syndrome. Are we, at the same level as somebody else? And how do we know that we are? And how did we, and you see some of the key characteristics. National Institute of Health talks about this. And they
Mm-hmm.
say there's some key characteristics of imposter syndrome. When you attribute your success to luck, right? Oh, I just got really lucky and to fall into this in the right place. I tell people my story of how I came into human services. I was working at an Air Force base and I needed a job. It was my 5 year term was up. It was temporary. It wasn't made permanent. The guy who promised me it was going to be permanent, he moved to Okinawa and he took his promise with him. And so I was kind of stuck. And there was like two people in Germany and somebody from in Japan that was ready to come take my job. So I would have to recompete with them, and I wouldn't have got it because they were already in the system and I was temporary.
Right.
And so somebody who was working for me at the base, now working for Kern County, my boy James McClellan, if you're watching this, and he was moving from employment services to emergency response and child protective services. So he introduced me to his boss, and so from there, I did an interview and fell into the job. But he had kind of told her about me, so that was something that I know that I was really fortunate to have that resource because there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't too many jobs out there in the desert that was going to pay commensurate to what I was making already. And I had a house note, two car notes, right? So I was I was glad to have had that. And I was fortunate to have fallen into a job in human services that, I love so much that I'm still in the field.
Right.
But I used to say I'm lucky. I was lucky. I was lucky. Well, no, you make your own luck. You put yourself in positions to interact with people and to connect with people and have them want to endorse you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's reasons, there's things that are put into place that maybe you and I may have never met in life, but then we did, right?
Right.
And it's not luck, it's, being put in the same position in the same field and connecting and learning and having similar friends where it was just, hey, this might be a good connection, right? So it's those type of things. When I got into human services, I wasn't planning to be a social worker, right? I thought I was going to be a high school history teacher,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then I realized, when I got into schools that I didn't want to teach, that formal type of way. But
Right.
in human services, I said, okay, so I'm doing this job, but what works for me?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I'm learning? Why should I buy into this? And what was the connection? It's families. It's families. That's always been the connection. Okay, cool. So I like what I do, but I want to do more. Oh, I see somebody else doing this. How can I take advantage of that? Right. So this is something where I created those opportunities within a place that other people might create different opportunities or may not create any opportunities. Just go with the flow. Right. And so that's definitely a huge piece, attributing success to luck. The second, fear of being found out, right? That we're a fraud, that we don't know what we know, right? That's a scary thing. Whenever I work with folks in child welfare, I'm always, well, gosh, they go through all this mandated training and they know SOP and they know CQI and all these acronyms that sound foreign to me. And then when I read about them, oh, SOP is just how we engage with folks in a nurturing and supportive way, following, the system. But the system can be watched. How do we engage? Oh, I already teach that, right?
Right.
So that's something else. Perfectionism and overworking. We need to be perfect. We can't make any mistakes. Fear of
Mm-hmm.
making a mistake is a huge thing in human services because the mistakes that we make honestly affect other people. It can affect other people in a profound way,
Right.
right? Overpayments, underpayments, or determining eligibility, messing up people's Medi-Cal. These things happen, right? Dismissing praise, dismissing praise as, oh well, oh, I don't know how to accept praise. Oh, it's nothing, or oh, this old thing, I've had this in my closet for years, right? Not being able to accept praise and be grateful for it and to express your gratitude for that, right? And so those are some of the key characteristics that show up when we feel like maybe we don't match up or we don't have the same place to compare ourselves, right? We don't have the same frame of reference. And so that when we do that, it creates that idea of what happens. I'm going to hang back. I'm going to defer to you because you have more experience. I'm going to defer to you because you have the title. You have, or we can get defensive, right? And it can really be a challenge. And you mentioned the idea of every job trains you. So in government service, one of the things I felt when I found that, and tell me if you found this as well. When you get promoted, there is no handbook for promotion,
Right.
right? And when you get promoted, the further you go up the chain, the more you're just supposed to know everything.
Right.
You're supposed to just have that knowledge.
Right.
And like the analogy I use, in the Matrix, you stick that thing in the back of your head, and all of a sudden you know kung fu, right? So you're supposed to know how to manage not just your unit that does your specific job, but your unit and three other units that do other specific jobs.
Right.
And that can really, when we don't have anybody to help us and show us what it looks like or create expectations for us, and we need to create our own expectations, that's a daunting task. And if you're not used to it, not ready for it, you can feel like you're going to fail. And so that's where imposter syndrome comes through a lot.
I think part of that imposter syndrome too is the expectation that you should know things,
Hmm.
right? Like I should know. I
Yeah.
mean, I still remember when I got promoted to supervisor, I was like, okay, I'm a supervisor now, right? I've been working for this my whole life. Well, not really, but like, all right, I've made it to the mountaintop. And then like recognizing first day, like I have no idea what this job is. And you are absolutely right when they say that there's not a handbook. There are like these unspoken sometimes expectations of what you should do and like how you should behave, but it's unspoken. And we speak a lot about clarity and kindness is clear and etc. But it's like for these positions to reduce some of that imposter syndrome, how do we create more clear expectations? How do we not just assume that because you got the job that you know what you're doing? There has to be some level of, okay, now you're a supervisor. Here are your fundamental duties. You're responsible for performance evaluations. Here are the people on your team and when they're due. Here, here is like your expectation around one-on-ones and what you should do in a one-on-one. Whatever it looks like. And so when you're in the not knowing, part of the not knowing is the fear that if I ask questions, that's where I'll be exposed as being a fraud and being someone who doesn't belong here. So if I'm a brand new supervisor who's never done a performance evaluation a day in my life, and I did go, by the way, to that one time training where they showed me how to do it, but it was theoretical in a handbook and it wasn't real information. I'm not really sure how to do it. If I go to my peer and I say, hey, Carl, you've been supervising a couple years more than me. Like, how do you write performance evaluations? Now I have to be vulnerable. I have to expose myself as the fraud that I am, that I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Now, if I have good relationships, Carl's probably not going to bat an eye at it. He's going to be helpful and tell me like what to do and how he does it, and here's some hot tips and make it easier for me. But when we don't have good relationships, and again, coming back to emotional intelligence, this is all everything's connected. It's a big web. If I don't have good relationships, I may not feel like I can be vulnerable enough to go ask questions. And if I don't have a good relationship with Carl and I say, hey, I need help, he might be suspicious too, because he might also be feeling like an imposter. He also might be feeling like an imposter, where if I come to him and I say, hey, Carl, I need some help. How do you do this? He might be thinking, is this a trap? They know I don't know what I'm doing, and they're trying to make me say out loud that I don't know what I'm doing, and therefore I'm not going to be helpful because I don't want to be exposed that I also am struggling, fighting for my life over here, trying to figure it all out. So it's like this wicked web that we weave here when we don't communicate honestly, and being honest with ourselves too. Maybe you're uncertain. That's normal and that's realistic and that's fine, but it's not a reflection necessarily of who you are. It's just an opportunity to um, you know, normalize that, feeling like an imposter doesn't mean that you are one. And if we want to kind of get rid of that feeling, like stop listening to it and find somebody that you love who will tell you the truth, to say, no, you're not an imposter. Here's what you bring. Like, lean into that.
Yeah. And lean into it, even if you don't have it, even if you don't have anybody who's ready to do that for you. How do we do that for ourselves, right? So, I mean, how do we look at those things that we feel like we have a deficit in, and are we worthy, or whatever else it is, right? And there's that, there, but for the grace of God go I, right? That how people say, well, I'm just a normal person. Cool. Everyone else that you're working with, they're all normal people as well.
Right.
And they've just come through the system in a way where they've been able to get where you are. And you might have a whole team of folks who have, you know, been feeling that way when they first came in, and then they got used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's something that people, a lot of people can relate to, and it's all fear-based. It's all fear-based, right? So
Yeah.
when we fear something, we're fearing something that has not happened yet, right?
Yeah.
And it might have happened in a different context with a different person or in a different setting. And so our brain is saying, yeah, but the last time you tried something similar to that, it's not working. So there's a quote that I used to use a lot. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we do that? I recognize this is something. What am I worried about? What are the what are the challenges? What are the outcomes that I'm worried about? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so measure those. Think about what's the worst thing that can happen,
Yeah.
right? Or what am I worried about? What am I worried about happening? And then ask yourself, where did that come from? Where did you get that from? Right. And is that something that's happened before in this specific context? What did you do to solve it? It's just all the coaching questions that we have. What have you done to overcome that in the past? I had a coaching client who was taking on this huge role where she was working in one department, and now she was in charge of all those departments in an entire university system.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I don't know. I mean, I just worked with one group before, and I kind of just came into that job and I kind of grew into the job. I said, okay, so how has that worked for you in the past? Well, I mean, I had to learn and I leaned on other people. I said, okay, well, where can you lean now? Well, we have this great cohort of people that were in the training with. Okay, cool. Right. So, just talking through that process, because when you're in fear, you're emotional. When you're emotional, you're not rational. So you're not thinking of a problem solving process. You are thinking of, how do I keep myself safe and protect myself from being hurt?
Right.
And so talking through that process, having that conversation, right? And then recognizing, are you accomplished? Do you feel accomplished? Right? And what are your accomplishments? What are the are accomplishments that have led you to where you are now?
Right.
right? And so I have that fear every time I interact with someone with a new group. Are they going to
Yeah.
accept me? Are they going to, are, part of the devil on my shoulder says, are they going to see through your stuff? Right?
Yeah.
You know, and the angel on this shoulder is saying, you know, you're accomplished. You've done these things. Your stuff is helpful to so many other people,
Yeah.
right? And then the devil said, yeah, well, you just learned how to talk your crap, So, it's constantly having that. Even when I sing, I'm in two bands, and before the first note comes out, I'm always nervous, always stage fright, worried about my voice cracking or where's it going to be. Then once the first note comes out, I'm good. I'm ready to go. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
just getting out there, and that idea. Let me ask you, how do you feel about that term, "fake it till you make it"?
So I actually do like it because it gives us like a starting point. So now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe mixed feelings because
Hmm.
sometimes you do have to fake it, but with humility. This is where I think the Dunning-Kruger effect comes in. If I'm faking it, like if I'm standing in the mirror and I'm like, you're the best leader who's ever existed. You are smart. You know everything. You will make no mistakes. Like maybe I'm being a little dramatic with it, but if I'm coming from that, like I'm gonna fake it to the point where I'm not gonna let anybody catch me slipping until I figure it out. Well, I don't think that necessarily is a good approach because then you are not humble and you are not open to information. You're not open to learning. You're just faking it. And I know plenty of people that's their default setting. I'm gonna rest on my laurels. Maybe I've had some success in other areas and maybe I've had some good things happen and I'm in a different role, but I'm going to be the winner I was back then in a new environment where you maybe don't have the skills or you're not able to navigate through whatever the new reality is because you're again old
Yeah.
mindset, new system. So I personally, when I think of fake it till you make it, it's believe in yourself as a learner. Like I do have the ability. Maybe I just don't know how to do it yet, right? It's
Mhm.
maybe not
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
So I'm meant to be in this room and maybe I don't have as much experience and as much knowledge as everybody else does yet. Yet. And so I'm going to be confident and I'm going to know I'm in the right place because I've earned it, not just because of luck, not just because of whatever, but because I've earned a place here and I just am not as confident and familiar as everybody else is yet. But
Mm.
what's really interesting, if you really look at a group of professionals, especially those who are maybe new in a field or new in a position, new in a role, everybody thinks that they don't belong there, except for that one guy who thinks he belongs
Yeah.
everywhere. But for the
And he's
most
and he's
part,
usually sitting there like this at the table.
yeah, exactly. Except for him. Aside from that guy, well, I have that guy or that gal, whatever. Um, uh, you know, everybody's probably like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm talking about," or these people aren't listening, or who am I to say anything? I don't have enough authority or position or whatever it is. I think we all
Yeah.
experience it.
I
I
just went
personally
through go ahead.
Oh,
You
no, no,
personally
no.
what?
I just was to say, I personally, when I'm feeling uncertain or I feel like I'm an imposter, I just usually just say it out loud. I
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm doing here, and I hope we can figure it out together. I like to be real transparent. I let everybody know I'm an imposter. I think it takes a little bit of the power out of it,
Yeah.
right? So if I say I'm here, I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to help. I'm not really sure like what we're doing yet. Most everybody's like, yeah, neither do we. And I'm like, cool, let's figure it out. I think it gets it out of the way so we can focus on what's important versus just being in our own heads the whole time.
Yeah. I've just finished a series of classes with state employees up and down the state, and it's on critical thinking and problem solving, right? And one of the things I ask every class on day one, because it's a 2 day class, and I ask everyone on day one, how many people here feel like a subject matter expert in what you do? I'm lucky if I get one person to raise their hand.
Mm.
And these are people that maybe have been in their jobs for 10 years, 15 years, or even 5 years, 3 years, right? I
Yeah.
said, so if you're not new, if you're not just newly past probation, the question is, why don't you feel like a subject matter expert? Who told you that you're not a subject matter expert? I mean, what is it that you do on a regular basis? And what you do is something that other people have no knowledge of, and that you could inform them of that knowledge. Maybe it's the regs that you use, the process that you use, the idea of, what it is you're doing to ensure, compliance or safety or
Hmm.
service or whatever else it is. If you have that down, if you know how to do your job, if you can do your job on autopilot, right, you have the capacity to call yourself a subject matter expert, right? Now, the question, so that's the idea of what a subject matter expert is: somebody who knows their job back and forth and can do it well. There's some folks who have been there for a long time and aren't subject matter experts because they choose not to be, right?
Right.
Um, so you choose to be a subject matter expert, but that's just the conversation that people have. So that idea of fake it till you make it, my question is, what is it that we're faking, right? If we're faking competence, then that is setting us up. Like you mentioned, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm brand new. Hey guys, this is the first time I've taught this class. So, we're going to be learning, we're going to be experiencing this together, right? That's not faking it till you're making, that's being vulnerable and letting people know, hey, this is something that is new for me too, but it doesn't mean I'm not prepared,
Right.
right? It's that level of preparation. So faking it maybe is your own self-confidence, but if you walk into it feeling like you are as prepared as you can be in that moment, which doesn't mean that you've learned everything, because it's
No.
ridiculous, right? We have epistemic privilege, which is my knowledge base. I know what I know based off of my experience, my education, my research. And then there's transcendence that says what you know ain't shit as compared to what there is to know in the world,
Right.
right? So if we keep that mindset, if I walk into the door saying, just because I have three letters behind my name doesn't mean that I'm the be all end all know all, and that I can learn, and not only learn from the resources I'm learning from online or whatever else is, I'm learning from the resources in the room. By the end of the nine cohort class that we did, the first cohort was good. The ninth class was so much better because I could tell stories that were related to what I'd learned in the other eight classes.
Right.
And what's cool is next year when I get to do that with them again, I hope I have an understanding of what they do and who they are so that I can better relate the topics we're going to talk about there specifically to them without them having to inform me. And guess what? I'll also be open to them informing me of new stuff that
Right.
happens. That is the magic of being a subject matter expert, knowing that I am continuously in a state of learning. Just because I don't know something doesn't mean that I'm not worthy,
Right.
right? When I don't know something, if I know that I want to learn and find out, and I ask questions, because I don't know, I'm sure you do this, Tiff. So, guys, in your role, because I've never been in your role, you know, when this happens, what happens? What's your response, right?
Right.
There are some people I know that would be the last thing they would ask somebody is to tell them how something would happen because they don't want to seem like they're lacking. Like, I don't know this
Right.
because of that judgment. You don't know this, right? No, I haven't been in your job, right? But a lot of the stuff that we teach are those human skills, right? That are not about bells and whistles and systems and and whatever else that you have to use to process things, but how you process your things. You can know your job. Half your job is the skills in your job, and the other half is, in terms of, are you enjoying yourself? Are you feeling fulfilled? Do you want to learn more? Are you there for a positive reason? Those are things that are so important. And a lot of people just focus so much on skills, so much on the hard skills, right? And
Yeah.
why? Because they're easy to work on. Point and click. Here's a cheat sheet. Let's take you through a 6-day training where you learn every single window that will ever come up in your system. And then you get on the floor and there's somebody who has never been in your system before but has an existential crisis and you're like, oh shit, what do I do with this?
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? And that's the issue. Like you mentioned, she's mentioned before the idea of revolutionizing onboarding. It's not just input; it's input and then showing examples of how this input can be utilized and then for people to replicate it in a meaningful way, not just tests, not just multiple choices or even scenarios. Scenarios are great, scenarios are awesome. But to really be immersed in something, people have to not just connect with it cognitively, but they have to connect with it emotionally.
Yeah.
And if we
Yeah.
don't connect with it emotionally, when we are emotional, when we're stressed out, imposter syndrome is completely emotional. We lose the ability to access all that information that's stored in our brain. And that's the
Hmm.
challenge. That's why people stutter, they forget what they want to say, they clam up, and they feel like failures because they can't remember something. Well, yeah, because you're not in that part of your brain because you're so worried about failing. Right. So
Yeah.
how do we help you recognize in those situations when you are dealing with an emotional response, how to respond to it in a way that will help you stay as rational as you can in those potentially irrational times.
Yeah. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. So, part of like that transition is that you have to separate your feelings from the facts. What are the facts and what's the story I'm telling myself? So maybe the fact is you got promoted. The story you're telling yourself is, man, they made a mistake. They really scraped the bottom of the barrel. Or somebody felt sorry for me.
Or even you say that, Tiff, even if you say that just for your friends, right? So maybe
Right.
you all competed for, oh, I don't know how I don't know how I got it over you, Tiff. I must have got lucky. I must have wore the right jewelry that day. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever it is, but you're way more qualified than I am. I don't know how you didn't get that job, and just those things like that where we downplay our abilities. And some people don't want to have to live up to their own expectations. You know,
Right.
I'm
Right.
sorry, go ahead. But yeah.
No. Yeah. Also too, especially for people who are high achievers and people who again like to be the one in the know. A lot of times the people who are high achievers, they're the ones with the most imposter syndrome because they're constantly raising the bar for themselves. So if something comes easy for them, they think that, maybe again, that's that luck. So, that didn't count because it was easy or anybody could have done this. But no, you did that and you accomplished that. So if as a high achiever, you keep changing the definition of what enough is, like you'll never feel it. You'll never feel like you're enough if you're constantly moving that goalpost. And so
Yeah.
be willing to like acknowledge your contributions as a capable person instead of just thinking that it just happened because it was easy. What's easy for you may be really hard for somebody else. So,
And
it,
yeah, and
uh-huh,
things that are rarely are things that are easy, good,
right,
right?
right,
Yeah.
right.
Or complete.
Yeah. And going back to your fake it till you make it idea is that sometimes the way that you can interpret fake it till you make it is that you don't always have confidence first, right? I may not be confident right from the beginning, and confidence doesn't come before action. You build confidence through action. So if you wait until you feel ready, you're probably never going to go anywhere. So don't wait until you feel ready, do it and move on and do the things, and then that confidence is going to catch up. So you don't need to feel like you belong to act like you belong. And that comes with a bit of that humility as well of I do know stuff, and what am I willing to learn? Let me take what I know and where I'm confident and use that to grow in the areas maybe where I'm not so confident. And so, maybe 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 not fake it till you make it, but I'm gonna say do it anyways.
Yeah.
Do it anyways.
Yeah.
The conversation I was having with my little niece yesterday was she was saying that she work. I'm going to try to keep her anonymous here, but she works for a large company and she has a manager who's taken some interest in her and like developing her. And so, like one of the things that the manager usually does, um, they're training her to do it so that she can do it. And so her
Mhm.
coworkers are telling her, that's a trap. Don't do it. That's their job. They're not paying you to do that. So don't get taken advantage of. And so my niece, my conversation with her was, it like, obviously don't work outside of your pay grade, like don't let anybody exploit you, but if you have an opportunity to learn a new skill, if someone's willing to invest in you and teach you a skill, like you're just going to be more prepared for the next thing. And so maybe it's not technically your job to do it, but now you know how. So if you decide to move up the ladder, you can say, well, I've been doing X, Y, and Z, which is a managerial um task, but I'm very familiar with it. So now you're ready for whatever comes next versus those people who are giving you feedback that don't do it. It's not your job. I guarantee you they're going to be in their job for the rest of their lives because they're not interested in growing and learning something else. Now, again, don't get exploited. Don't do things that are illegal. Don't do things that are immoral. Don't do things that are not, allowed within your scope. But if it's just skill development, take that opportunity every single time that someone's going to teach you something. Learn it. Learn it. All it does is make you better. It makes you better. And I said
And you get
those
to
same
put it on a
people,
resume. Yeah.
exactly. And those same people who are telling you don't do extra work because they don't pay you for that are going to be the same people who are complaining when you get promoted, saying we weren't given the same opportunities.
Yeah.
So I said they're going to talk trash either way. Give them something to talk about. I give great auntie advice. I give
Yeah.
great auntie advice. So do it anyways, right? Succeed anyways, and let that be your opportunity. Take as much as you can from this company. Maybe you're not going to stay here forever and always, but learn as much as you can because it'll prepare you for whatever comes next. And you're
Word.
not going to know. And you're not going to know. But
Or
you're
as
going to learn
kids
it
say,
anyways. Word.
bars.
Or
Bars.
hold on. I see that a lot. For those who are listening and not watching, I'm just tapping my fingers together like I'm applauding. I've been seeing that everywhere recently, so I'm gonna start doing that. Like, yes,
Yeah,
queen.
that's the new this. Yeah.
6,
So
7.
yeah.
Yes, queen. Yes, queen. So I love it.
Very
And
cool.
I will say one last thing here. Uh, you know, when you're feeling out of your depth, just say it, right? As soon as you name it, it loses some of its power. So being able to say, like, I feel like I'm a little bit out of my depth here, but I'm working through it, or this is new for me and I'm figuring it out. Like, this is that vulnerability piece of it. I guarantee you most people will soften. And I say most people because there's that guy. Most people will soften and say, yeah, I had no idea either. Here's what I've learned along the way. Or, oh God, thank God somebody said something out loud because we're all kind of lost right now. It
Yeah.
just creates that space where we can all be human together. And I don't care where we're at in this world. I think we all deserve an opportunity to just be a little bit more human with each other. Like the best part of humanity, not the worst part of it.
I hear you. And that's an important piece to think about when I teach hiring classes. One of the things people talk about is, interview anxiety. And I say, there's nothing wrong with you walking in and saying, "Hi, I'm Carl Raven. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so nervous for this opportunity. I'm just excited to be here." Right. So just if I stumble, it's because I'm excited. Right. And
Mhm.
so just to be upfront and honest with somebody and use that, I'm sorry, I'm just really nervous because this job, is an amazing opportunity, and I'm so glad to be able to, interview for you. That type of thing is real. It keeps people recognizing your enthusiasm, which, you can't train enthusiasm, right? You can train some engagement, but you can train skills. You can train the hard technical skills. You can't train the human skills, right? You can help people develop comfort where they feel more comfortable utilizing their human skills. But that's not something you can put a finger on. To end, there's a couple different resources. Psychology Today has an imposter syndrome assessment, just in case you're interested in it. It is an assessment that asks you 20 different questions, work related, and just to if you're interested in putting a degree or a point to it, right, some data points to it. And then another one is a resource that I got from
From where?
can you hear them?
I heard something for like a bloop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't hear him.
Okay.
I heard like
All
a
right.
split second of a bloop. It sounded almost like a notification, not like dogs barking.
Yeah, our other two dogs came out, which of course, they all have to announce themselves. The ones in the
Hmm.
living room already. Oh, of course. All right, coming back. Three, two. So there's another resource that I got from Sharon Uy. I'm not quite sure how I say her last name. His last name is Uy, so I say Uy, right? And she's a therapist, and she has a poem that she wrote about the idea of imposter syndrome. So I just want to read it real quick and just end. Don't fake it till you make it. That's garbage advice. Face it till you make it. Get up, work hard, fail. Stand back up, face it again, do a little better, fail again, get back up, repeat. I don't know if that's a haiku or not, but
It
it's
works.
it's bars. Yeah.
Yes, queen.
So if you're ever feeling like you're struggling with feeling like you're worthy or that it was something that was meant for you to do, think about where that comes from and who told you that and how do you know that, right? And then feel that fear and do it anyway. Just like we always do every episode. And until the next time, I'm Carl,
I am Tiff.
and let's keep it real.
Keep it real.